This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 77. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Brian Deemer.
I'm Shane Kelly.
I'm Kevin Moyer.
I'm Jamie D.
I'm Peter Rios.
We are sexy bitches, yeah!
And welcome to the show. This episode of Comic Geek Speak is sponsored by the New York City Comic Con. New York Comic Con will be from February 24th through 26th at the Jacob Javits Center in New York City. You can get your tickets online. If you're one of the first 1,000 to buy your tickets, you get a free Serenity action figure. Tickets are... What are the ticket prices, Peter? It's
$25 a day.
Yeah, 25. And they did actually open up Friday. They now have 4 hours on Friday for the general public.
Oh, okay.
Originally, it was just for the industry people. So if you buy just a Friday ticket, it's $15. If you get the weekend pass, it's only $35 for all 3 days. So that's a really good deal.
Well worth it.
Also, you can't beat that.
Lots of big names coming. Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, Joe Quesada. So
Brad
Meltzer. It's going to be a...
Jim, I was really surprised when I saw the announcement that Brad Meltzer was signed up for that. Yeah. Very looking forward to seeing his appearance.
So it's going to be a good show. We're going to be there. So come meet us, and if you want more information on the convention, just go to our website, and they have a banner ad on the bottom of our website. Just click that, and it'll take you to their website. And check them out. All right, let's get the business out of the way for our Book of the Month Club reminder, and for our contest reminder. Just go to our website. Right there on the homepage, they have banners. You can click read all the details. I won't bore you with the details. You've heard them plenty of times. So
www.comicgeekspeak.com.
Thank you.
That's
right.
right.
Just going to do that.
Yeah. And for our episode here, we have an absolutely wonderful interview for you with Mr. Joe Kubert, legend of the industry, and we think it was a wonderful time, and we hope you enjoy it. Okay, and with me here, I have Shane, Kevin, Jamie, and Peter, and we are the usual crew for Comic Geek Speak, and we welcome you to the show.
Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Now, Joe, the first question that we always ask everyone, and after I did a little research, I realized it doesn't exactly apply to you, and the question is, when did you first start reading comics? And I guess in your case, it was more comic strips than comics. Is that correct?
I believe you're right. Yes, I did read comic books per se. Really weren't around when I started reading comics. The first ones, of course, were in the newspapers. Yeah.
And what were your favorites?
Oh, gee, Tarzan, as it was done by Hal Foster. Flash Gordon, as it was done by Alex Raymond, Terry and the Pirates by Kniff, Dick Tracy, all the stuff that was in the newspapers. I loved them.
That's great. So you were, and then I guess you were. Did you read the first Superman as it came out, or?
Sure did. I sure did. I remember it. I remember it distinctly. As a matter of fact, I was like. Gee, I guess I was maybe 12 or 11, 12, 13, somewhere in that neighborhood. And I remember the book. I remember holding on to it. At that time, when I or any of my friends bought a comic book, it was like buying 10 of them, because we would read it and then lend it to one of our buddies to read, and we would trade them. So that, like I said, each one of us would be buying one book, but in essence, we'd be reading maybe 8 or 10 of them.
Yeah, that's great. Hey, just this Wednesday, I picked up your new graphic novel, Jew Gangster.
Yeah.
And I noticed in one of the panels, the main character is holding on to what appears to be a copy of Action Number 1.
Very, very loosely done, if I recall.
Yeah, that was a throwback to your childhood there, huh?
Oh yeah, well, a lot of the stuff that was in the Jew Gangster book was kind of culled from actual experiences. I grew up in that kind of a neighborhood in East New York, in Brooklyn. and a lot of the events that occurred. In fact, I kind of patterned the father figure after my own father, the mother figure, my own mother, and one of my sisters.
Yeah, I understand that your mother ran a restaurant like that.
That's right. That's right.
And Jew Gangster, did that just come out this week, or has it been out for a little while?
No, it just came out this week.
Yeah, it's beautiful, Joe. Absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you very much.
So I guess before we talk about other stuff, we should mention Sergeant Rock. You're bringing him back.
Yep. I'm kind of in the middle now of a 6-issue project. I'm on the 4th book now, on the 4th issue, and coming back to Sergeant Rock, both writing and drawing and lettering and coloring and so on and so forth was nothing less than a joy.
So, have you tried to update Sergeant Rock in any way in order to make him perhaps more relevant to a modern audience, or is it?
Well, the relevancy, I think, and I hope, is in the area of credibility. What I'm trying to do is pretty much what Brian Azzarello did so beautifully in the book that he wrote and that I drew, and that was to kind of flesh out the characters, to make them more believable, perhaps, than they were before. And Bob Kanigher, right from the beginning, that was his attempt. And I think Brian extended it, and I'm just taking hold of the reins and going forward.
I wanted to ask you, because I read just recently DC released a small digest of some of the earliest Sergeant Rock tales.
Yeah.
And I had picked that up, and I read that about a month ago. And then I wondered, when I saw that you were doing the new Sergeant Rock, I wondered if you had seen HBO's Band of Brother miniseries.
Oh, yeah.
And has that, viewing that, has that changed at all the way that you write about Easy Company?
I don't think it's changed it. Like I said, even when Bob was the editor and writing the material, I know that his thrust on the stories was to make them as believable as possible. And to a great degree, he achieved that goal, because we used to receive letters from guys in the Army who really believed that there was a Sergeant Rock, which was, to us, the greatest compliment in the world. I don't think that Band of Brothers or any of the new Army films have really pushed me in any kind of a specific direction other than what I've been taking. And as I said before, what I'm trying to do, if you perceive that perhaps the actions are a little bit more credible and believable, that's what my attempt was, that's what Brian's attempt was, and under the circumstances under which we worked at the time, that was what Bob Kanigher was trying to do.
Any kind of, this is Peter, any kind of current war story, somebody may fairly or unfairly compare it to, today's current events.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you would say to that?
To begin with, I'm not somebody who has the subject matter of war stories as being his favorite subject matter. I want to make that clear to begin with. Mm-hmm. Having been in the Army, I think that it's an honorable place. I think it's a place that guys are in mostly not because they want to be, but because they have to be. I think that applies. It applied during World War II. It applied during the Korean War when I was in the Army. It applies, I think, to guys today. I can kind of underscore that because one of the projects that I'm in now is actually producing a series of maintenance magazines for the Army. And my sense of what's happening, my sense of having spoken to a lot of the guys in the Army, I've been down to a couple of the camps and spoken to the soldiers, being in a situation where your life is in danger stinks. I mean, it's not a place any of us would like to be. How relevant the stuff is that I'm doing now in terms of what's happening in Iraq and all the rest of the world, God, it's not something that it's not a goal that I've set purposely for myself, but in terms of it being the kind of a situation that nobody looks forward to, nobody likes, nobody enjoys, I think that what I'm doing is pretty much the same.
Now, you just mentioned that you're going to be working on some maintenance magazines, and that another great comic legend worked on Army maintenance manuals, and that's Will Eisner, and you actually had one of your first jobs with Will Eisner. Is that correct?
That's right. At the age of about 11, I think I was 11 or 11. Before I did any kind of work at all, it was a summer job when I just started high school, and Will was kind enough. The ironic part of it is that I saw Will very infrequently. The setup, just as a point of interest, the setup for his studio was in Tudor City, and it was actually a converted apartment. So one of the rooms was the ones that Will had occupied. The rest were the production guys, and I stayed. So I saw him very infrequently. Later on, I think I got to know him better, and we were pretty good friends. He was, as a matter of fact, a very dear friend, and helped me a great deal in a lot of different directions. But I had the opportunity at that time to be able to work with professionals and to kind of learn what it was all about. I'll never forget the guys that I met, Tex Blaisdell and a whole bunch of other guys, Bob Powell and a whole bunch of other tremendous artists who helped me in so many ways I couldn't even describe.
Yeah, when I read about that, it's amazing the community of people that existed, especially back in the early days, and how the comics community was really all connected, and it's just a really, I guess it's easy to romanticize now that it's so many years later, but it just sounded really neat.
Well, to begin with, the guys that I met, the professionals that helped me, were probably the bunch of the kindest, nicest people you could ever get to know. Here am I, this obnoxious little kid running around and trying to find out what this was all about. And I guess a lot of the artists in the business already recognized the fact that this was really, really what I wanted to do. And so they helped me in every way they could. I remember the first time I went up to MLJ, which was the forerunner of Archie. This was, God, I was still living in Brooklyn. Their place was down on Canal Street someplace. And when I remember the smell of the place, for that matter. And when I came up there, the editor let me come into the bullpen and let me watch the artists work. And the artists were explaining the materials, because I had no idea what you use to do a finished drawing, what you draw on, for that matter. And they gave me a couple of sheets of paper, and they gave me a brush, and they showed me how to use that with Indie ink. First time I'd ever seen that stuff. And they helped me in every conceivable way. Yeah, it was a very tight community, and I guess that one of the reasons was that, we didn't have the intercom, we didn't have the computers, and in essence, you had to physically bring the work up. You couldn't transmit it over the airwaves, so to speak. You had to actually be in the company of guys who were doing it. You had to meet the guys. You had to talk to the guys. And I think that was a big advantage in terms of my learning what this business was all about. Otherwise, I would have never have had the opportunity to really know what was going on in the business. And I think for that reason, a lot of people who try to get into the business today have a rather difficult time.
Joe, this is Jamie.
Yeah, Jamie.
I was kind of amazed to hear that war comics weren't your favorite genre. Because as soon as I hear the name Joe Kubert, I think of Sergeant Rock and all of that. What is your favorite genre that you've done? Well,
because I say it's not my favorite doesn't mean that I disfavor it.
Okay.
It means that the job that's on my table, the job that I'm working on, is my favorite.
Okay.
I put all my concentration and all my thought into that, no matter what the subject matter is. And I did the best I could with the war comics simply because that's what I do with every story I get. I kind of put myself into it as deeply as I can and try as best I can to do as good a job as I possibly can do. In fact, under those circumstances, if you'd asked me what I did, the job before the one I'm working on now, I'd be hard put to think about it because my concentration is so heavily involved in what I'm doing right now. So it's not a matter of a favorite. It's just that I'm so much into what I'd be working on currently that the others kind of take second place. But in terms of the war stuff, you know, the reason I guess that I'm known for it to the degree I am is because it was successful, and because it was successful, Bob Kanigher kept feeding me more and more of the stories, which I did more and more, and that was kind of the result.
So you're saying it was just, it was more of a job for you than I guess like a passion. It was...
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the job is a passion.
True.
The work I do is a passion, and as a matter of fact, one of the criteria that's used for anybody accepted into the school that I started, is that it's got to be a passion. If it's just a passing interest, or if it's just something that you like to do as a hobby, forget about it. You're just not going to be able to do this stuff. It just calls too much. It's just asking too much of you to do it in an exterior fashion where you've not actually put yourself into the work. It's got to be a passion. It's a compulsion.
So do you still enjoy it as much today as you did when you were 11 years old?
More so, because I think I'm getting a pretty good handle on it now.
You know, that was another comment I was gonna ask you about. Is as I read You Gangster, and I looked at the artwork, and it's to me it's about as close to a perfect comic as you can get, and a lot of people. And not just artists who do comics, but artists who do music and who do anything. They seem to, peak in their 30s or 40s, and then it seems like their work goes downhill, and yours just keeps getting better and better.
You're very kind. You're really very kind, and I only account for it the fact that I'm probably one of the, and I keep repeating this, I'm one of the luckiest people around. I love what I'm doing. I enjoy what I'm doing more than I could tell you. I do it 6 days a week. I'm sitting at my drawing table right now with the current stuff that I'm working on. It's, like I said, it's the 4th issue of the Sergeant Rock books. And people still want me to do this stuff. People still call me. Now, how lucky can you get? It's just great. Not only that, but the cherry on top of the whipped cream is I have 2 of my sons who have accomplished so much and whose work I really love. The amazing miracle to me is these 2 guys love what they're doing. Both Adam and Andy love what they're doing as much as I love what I'm doing. That really is a miracle.
Well, your work ethic clearly shows in your sons. When you talk about doing this as a job, when back in the day, some of that can get a little lost with some current creators, but you can really see with your sons how that work ethic it was passed on, and because their stuff is phenomenal. They put their stuff out in time. It's all 110%. So I
agree with you. As far as the boys are concerned, I tell you, I couldn't be more proud of them, and I got to tell you too. The current stuff that they're developing now, the current stuff that they're working on now, is probably the best stuff that they've ever done, especially in terms of being able to do the whole job or more of the whole job themselves. Andy's going to be inking his stuff. Adam is, I hope, going to be doing the same thing, so that what's going to be coming out from both of these boys is more of the uniqueness that they're capable of doing. The stuff is beautiful.
What do you think about their move to DC?
I think it was a good move on their part. The guys up at DC, Marvel is a great outfit as well. I don't. What they've done is no diminution of how well they've been treated and how much they think of Marvel. But there were certain things that they wanted to do. There were certain characters that they wanted to work on. And both boys, well, the reason that I'm so proud of them, did it in a completely and totally professional manner. You ask anybody up at Marvel, and they'll tell you that neither one of the two boys ran out on them, but told them exactly what was happening up front, didn't use it as a lever to get more dough. This was the move that they wanted to make. And under any and all circumstances, that's what they were going to do. And once they made the commitment with DC, it was a done commitment. They are professionals. They are professionals, and they're terrific.
Was it because of your long-standing association with DC that you seldom, if at all, worked with Marvel?
Yeah, I think that's probably true. DC has treated me. Look at Paul Levitz, who's the big mucky muck up there. Used to be my assistant when I was an editor. So I know Paul really well. I know most of the people up there who are in pretty good positions now when they first started. So having been around this long is a terrific advantage. And the people up at D.C. have always treated me really, really well. I consider Paul Levitz, as a matter of fact. I know a lot of people, and there are not a lot of people that I'd call friend. Paul is one of them.
So what's the salary for the title Mucka Muck?
What's the qualifications?
A lot of bucks for Mucky Muck.
I'm sure at some point we're going to talk about the fabulous school that you have. I kind of want to, maybe even give some of our listeners just a tiny little mini lesson. Some of the things that I always hear in other professions is, if you're not practicing every day, you're not. It's harder to grow. And as a professional, like you just said, you're working 6 days a week. Comparing the Jew Gangster with Sergeant Rock Prophecy, Jew Gangster is black and white, Sergeant Rock is color, and as an artist, what does that do to your style when you have to make the decision of whether you're going to draw in black and white or color?
Well, it changes. It changes, hopefully visibly, because when you're doing a job in black and white, I think you can equate that with photography to a great extent. And that is, if you're shooting a film in black and white, you're getting all the tones, the variety of tones that are actually color, so that you're getting what looks like a complete picture. When you're doing it in color, those tones that you would be using are substituted by color. That's the big difference, so that you have to project in your own head where the color will fit well. It isn't as if you're just doing I don't do the job just in outline. There's another element involved. My own feeling, and I've worked this way from the very beginning, is that I like my black and whites to pretty much stand up by themselves, even if they're going to have color on it. And the reason for that is there are, of course, variations, but the reasons to have a complete job in color is because I would feel then that it's almost like taking a black and white photograph and tinting it rather than painting it.
Now, are you doing all your colors in watercolor? Because I understand you're not a huge proponent of the computerized coloring techniques. Is that correct?
Well, old guys like myself, we're kind of stick in the mud, I guess. This time around, I am working on the computer. I'm getting a tremendous amount of help from a good friend and who's been working in head of production here with most of the stuff I do. A guy by the name of Pete Carlson, and we work on the color together, and we sit in that infernal machine together, and I kind of use him as an extension of my hand and color, and so far the first book is already in the can, so to speak. I'm very happy with the look of it. I don't diminish the effect of color with computers. Not one iota. There's some of the most beautiful stuff I've seen done on the computer. On the other hand, I've seen people work with that color, figuring anyhow the impression that it's given is that the more color you put on it, the better it's going to look. I'm not a proponent of that.
One of our just recent interviews, we had Maury Hollowell, who was a Kubert School alum and cross-gen colorist, Marvel colorist now.
Yep.
He had great things to say about the school, which I guess maybe we should talk about for a little bit right now.
Sure.
Well, I might mention before you ask me anything about the school,
Uh-huh.
I think you had mentioned, Brian, that most of the arts, or you had intimated that most of the arts are similar. That is, if you go in for music, you got to be practicing all the time. If you go in for dance, you got to be practicing any form of the art. And I would agree with you, just to start off, that the only way that anybody improves drawing is by sitting at a drawing table and drawing and drawing and drawing. There's no shortcut to it. There's no other way. And if you lay off of it a couple of months or a couple of weeks or a couple of days, you're missing a beat, and you got to get back into it again, and that's just a little bit more difficult.
So the school, we have a lot of listeners who are budding artists. I mean, I'm amazed sometimes at the stuff they do for us. It's a 3-year course, right?
Yep, it is.
And you also have a correspondence course as well.
Yep, I do.
And I think I read you only took. I think you take about 150 students, that's not a lot. So
well, we only accept up to 100.
Oh, okay. So the competition is pretty fierce.
Yep.
How does one go about that? Other than just filling out an application, what other qualifications are needed?
Well, the usual procedure is that you fill out, of course, the application as the first step, the application, and then an appointment is made for an interview, in which you would bring a portfolio. The interview usually lasts anywhere from an hour and a half, perhaps 2 hours. The determination is then made during that interview, both the how deeply the feeling for the student or the applicant is to want to do this kind of stuff. Are they serious about it? Do they know what the workload is for coming to a place that's going to teach them to get into this kind of a business? The average student who attends this school, and this is explained to every student who applies and every one of the interviews that take place, that the average student's schedule who attends this school is one where they're drawing 8 to 10 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week. Now, if they hesitate, if they say, well, I'd like to draw, but I don't like to draw that much, well, then they should give second thought about trying or even considering getting into this business. Because if you're called upon to do a job, and you have a deadline on that job, and you tell your client, well, look, I just don't feel like working this week, you're out of this business.
Now, is that interview conducted with the legendary Mr. Kubert that's going to have them shaking in their seat, or? Well,
it used to be, but the guy who does most of the interviewing for the school now, his name is Mike Chen. He, too, is a graduate of the school. Mm-hmm. He's been in his position now as my assistant and working fabulously in any number of different places, in a number of different ways. He's been working with me for the past 15 or 20 years. He's an early graduate of the school. And so when he conducts an interview, he himself has gone through the same thing. And he conducts it as strenuously as I would. In fact, we've been accused, he and I both have been accused, of trying to push students away rather than pull them in. And I guess to a great degree, that's true.
Well, by doing that, you're going to test, their commitment, and anybody that'll go through that, more likely than not, will be the kind of student you want.
More likely than not, that's true. But despite the intense interview that we hold, there are invariably a number of people after the first 6 months that we have to ask to leave, simply because we recognize, due to the fact that they're not keeping up with the work that they have to do, any number of reasons that it's just not going to work out for them. I'd rather they weren't wasting their money and our time, and we try to get rid of people like that as soon as we can, so that there are a number that we just kick out.
What kind of classes are involved? I mean, is it like you're teaching anatomy and perspective and all that kind of stuff?
That's the other thing. There's a 10-course curriculum that we teach, and the 10 courses were actually devised by me and a bunch of the other instructors based on those things that we feel every cartoonist would need in order to be able to make a livelihood over an extended period of time. Not just doing one facet of the business, but to be able to do anything that they're called upon, humor, storyboards, of course, storytelling, graphic storytelling, painting, and we do have courses in anatomy and composition and color and painting and all those things that we feel are necessary for the cartoonist to make a living. Nobody can come here. Anybody who's accepted cannot select their own courses or their own curriculum. They must take every one of the courses we give and must pass every one of the courses. For instance, one of them is lettering, to learn how to letter. Now, lettering mostly is done on the computer. A lot of work is done on the computer. But it's important for anybody who's going to be involved in that facet of the business to know what the basics are, to know where it all started, to know if they don't happen to have the machine available or that they don't want to go through the whole procedure, that they can do it themselves. Nobody I know who attends the school likes that course. So that's too bad. That's one of the things that we feel are necessary. If we're going to sanction the student coming out of here, if he graduates and we're telling him, look, you're able now to get a job, then they're going to have to trust us and do what we tell them they're going to have to do. And that's the way it works. Incidentally, both my sons, Adam and Andy, went through exactly the same thing.
Didn't one of them actually teach a lettering course for you once?
Both of them are teaching here at the school. They have their studios here set up at the school, and they teach one day a week, just as I do. They're becoming, well, hopefully, they'll be I never expected the school to last as long as it has, but it seems to be getting stronger and stronger every year, and eventually they'll probably be running it themselves. So this is their introduction.
This is Shane. I wanted to ask you about your two boys when they were younger. I have two boys myself, and I'm always looking to see what they lend themselves to do, whether it be banging on a piano at the age of 2 or whatever. Yeah. Did you notice right away that they had an instant drive for that, or did you have to develop them?
With Adam, yes. Adam started to draw when he was really young. As a matter of fact, he was the one that started lettering really young. I think he was about 11 or 12 when he was doing professional lettering. Andy, on the other hand, didn't start to draw till he was till he was about 15 or 16, and that's kind of unusual because most of the people who do what we do start when they were 2 or 3 years old, or as soon as they could hold a pencil. But I don't think there's any true criteria that you can go by to really determine whether a kid. Look, I have 5 kids. 4 boys and a girl. Thank God they're all married and out of the house. Thank God. But the one thing I've told them, I've never tried to push, consciously anyhow, I've never tried to push or to try to get them interested in anything that I was doing. The one thing that I wanted them to do was to just be happy with whatever they selected doing. I didn't care, if you want to dig ditches or build houses or anything that you want to do, you'll be successful at it if you like what you're doing. If you're making a whole bunch of money and you hate what you're doing, then you're very unsuccessful as far as I'm concerned. So the fact that they selected doing, Adam and Andy decided that they wanted to get into the same business as I was surprised. Adam, as a matter of fact, went to Rochester Institute of Technology, graduated as a medical illustrator, and amazingly got a job as soon as he got out of college as a medical illustrator. He's doing really well. First couple of weeks at the job, he came and said, "Dad, I don't like what I'm doing. I don't care for this kind of work. I'd like to come to your school, and I'd like to draw." He says, "Well, I'm not drawing when I do this stuff for medical illustration. All I'm doing is rendering a whole bunch of things that I see. I can't use my imagination." I said, "Okay, Adam, you can." And Andy joined him in this little piping voice afterwards and said, "I'd like to come to the school, too." I said, "Okay, you guys can do that. But the first time, you don't do what you're supposed to do. If the rest of the class doesn't bring their homework and they say the dog ate their homework, I'll believe them. It don't matter. But if you say that, you're living at home. I know if you're playing games, you guys are out. I'll kick you right out of the school because I'm not about to jeopardize what I and your mother have done to start this school because you guys are playing games. And they worked as hard, if not harder, than anybody attending the school. And we're never late on a deadline.
Yeah, my father was the same way. It didn't matter what I did as long as I was happy doing it. And as much as I love comic books, and I'm trying to get my 4-year-old to pick up a book and look at it and read and talk about it, I don't want to push him because I want him to enjoy it.
I agree completely with that. And so far, look at anybody who says that they have all the answers is either a liar or a nut. I believe that those things are right. I hope they're right, and so far for me they have been.
Hey, I just want to go back just a few moments ago to when you said that if you miss a deadline, or if you say you don't feel like working today and you put something off till tomorrow, then you'll be out of the business. I guess we're all lucky that wasn't true for you when you were like 13 or so.
Oh, you're so right.
Brutal.
You're so right. And, one of the reasons when the students are telling me, gee, it's so hard to meet the deadline and to get the quality of the work I want to do, I want to keep working on it. I said, look, I've gone through that. I know what that's about. But not only that, when I was younger, before I was married, it was funny. One of the students, just as an aside, one of the students had asked me, what straightened you out? How come you tell us that when you were younger, when you started, you had difficulty meeting the deadlines too? I said, what did it for me was getting married. That straightened me out right away.
That's the ultimate deadline, right?
Well, if you want to live any sort of a normal life with a wife and with kids, you can't make the excuse of working all night and sleeping all day. You just can't do that.
One of the things most people probably don't know about you is your partnership with, excuse me a second as I look at my notes.
Norman Moore?
Yes, in the development of one of the process for 3D comics.
Yeah.
And although it was a short time that they burst onto the scene, what was the impetus behind all that?
Well, that was back in the 1950s, early 1950s. I had just gotten out of the Army. I had been stationed in Germany. I had been working before I went into the Army, of course. I'd been working for St. John Publishing, and I had been packaging a whole series of books for them. My buddy Norman, who had attended the High School of Music and Art with me, had been in the Air Force, and he had settled down out in California. And he was still working for Charlie Biro and eventually got involved in making movies and stuff like that. But when I got out of the Army, after having been in for 2 years, I had been in Germany, and I saw a bunch of magazines when I came back that had shown 3D photographs with the red and green glasses inserted. When I came back, I got together with my buddy Norman. We were talking, at that time, I don't know how many hundreds of comic books were out. And we were talking about doing something different, something a little different than had been done before, so that perhaps our efforts, the publication, whatever it was, would stand away from everything else. And I said, I saw this magazine in Europe that showed these 3D photographs. If we could do that in a comic book, that would really set it apart from what's being done so far. And the first thought of it was, couldn't be done. But then we sat down and worked on it and put it together. Norm, and we worked with Norm's brother, too, who had been in the graphic end of the art business. And after a while, we knew that the process existed. The problem was to be able to get this thing done so that the publication could be selling for some reasonable kind of price. Now, the price would have to be more because you had to insert the glasses, you had to make the glasses, the printing was different, and so on. The artwork was had to be prepared quite differently. And the first book that we did was Mighty Mouse. This was for the St. John Publishing Company. Mighty Mouse, the sale of that book bought my first house for me.
Wow.
The sale was incredible. It was a 25-cent book, and it sold over 1 million copies. And the second book did really well too. But then everybody jumped on the wagon, and just flooded the entire, which has happened time and time again in our business. But they flooded the entire market with the 3D stuff, and eventually it just petered out. Nothing sold. By the time we came out with the third, fourth, or fifth 3D book, instead of selling 99%, the sales were like 10%, 7%.
Wow.
And it ruined a lot of businesses.
But at least you got your house.
Publishing.
Joe, I wanted to ask you if you have any short, fun stories from the business. You know, maybe some crazy joke that one of the old timers said, in the old days, or something funny that somebody did in the office one day. Not something that's going to ruin anybody's reputation, but just something that might be fun that no one ever gets to hear.
Well, I'm a lousy storyteller, but I will describe one situation that I felt was funny as hell. There's a guy by the name of Harry A. Chesler. Harry Chesler was in the late 30s and early 40s, a guy that was packaging magazines for other publishers. Publisher at that time could start a business in the office the size of a closet, because all he needed was a place, an address, and he would give out the job of putting a book together, with if it was humor or adventure or superhero, or whatever it was. Harry Chesler was one of the guys who did it. So he had a place on 23rd Street in Manhattan, and he had a staff of guys, brightest guys. Charlie Biro had worked up there, guys whose names may not bring any kind of recollection for anybody but old codgers like me. But anyhow, there were a whole bunch of guys up there who were about a half a dozen artists, and he would never pay his bills. He would just never pay his bills. And at times, the electric would go out. The guys would be working in the half-darkness. During the day, it wasn't so bad, but when it started getting nighttime, the artists couldn't see what the hell they were doing. And it happened that there was a telephone pole that carried electricity not too far from one of the office windows, if you can imagine, on 23rd Street. That's right. He pulled in a line and plugged it into the pole, got the electric in there, and the guys still talk about it. The guys that worked there at the time still talk about it.
Wow. And was he ever busted for it?
Nope. No. This guy Harry Chesler, if you can imagine, he wore a fedora. He was originally an advertising guy from Chicago before he did this comic book packaging. He had the cigar in his face, and he wore a vest and a jacket at all times with a tie. He was a dinosaur. He was really one of the old timers, one of the nicest guys in the world. While I was going to high school, I was going to the High School of Music and Art, as I had mentioned, up on 135th Street in Manhattan. That's where the old school was. And I used to go in from Brooklyn on the subway. At that time, it was a nickel a ride. And on the way home, he would allow me to stop off. The school was over at 3. I could stay in his office then till 5 o'clock. He set up a table and stuff for me and allowed me to work there and allowed the artists who were there to help me. So that's how I knew Harry.
That's a great opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, try to do that nowadays.
Yeah.
See if they'd open a table for you. Joe, this is Kevin. Is there a character or a project that you would love to work on that you haven't tackled up to this point?
Well, there is a character that I'm going to be working on. There's a project I'm putting together now. You know, I'm lucky enough at this stage of the game to be able to be very selective with what I do. And I was talking and turning over in my own mind what the next project would be here. As I mentioned before, I'm winding up the 4th issue of this thing, of the Sergeant Rock thing. And I'm already thinking of the next project I'd like to get into. And yes, I've got that set up, and that's going to be, I won't even mention the name of it at this point because I may change my mind before I start it. But I'm looking forward to that. That's one that I'm really, really excited about. As I am with the Sergeant Rock, too.
And that comes out January 18th?
That's the first issue, that's right.
First issue. And you're already working on number 4, so you're ahead of schedule there, huh?
Yep.
That's great.
What a novelty idea.
It's called a deadline.
Well, let me give you an aside on that. When I first contracted with DC to do this, I said, well, what I will do, of course, is I will write all 6 books first before I start to draw them. And the guys up there said, you're going to write all six books? I said, well, how else can I do this? I have to know how the damn story ends before I begin the first one. He says, nobody does that. They do it as they go. I said, no, I can't do it that way. And what I did was I wrote all, and with this next project I would probably do the same thing, and that is to write all the books so that if I should want to change something or if I should want to alter something, I at least know what the ending is going to be.
Yeah.
And I think that makes for a strong book, because, I mean, we've talked to other writers and such that have... Marv Wolfman was one of them. That, you know, he, even when he's in a large project, he goes through the whole thing and writes the whole thing all the way to the end before the first issue is, you know, out.
Right. Well, it might be of interest to you to know that Marv Wolfman was also my assistant.
There you go. See, it all kind of connects.
It all comes right back.
It's full circle. But I always looked at Marv Wolfman as a writer who I always loved everything he did because he put that much time and effort into it.
Good man. He's a good man. He's a good writer.
And so to hear you do that, you know, just and now the key, you know, everything clicks.
Right. One of the things that while I was doing some research that I didn't know about you is that you inked Showcase number 4, the first appearance of the Silver Age Flash.
Yep.
And at that, did you guys know that? Did you?
I didn't know that. No.
I was shocked to find that out myself. And did you know at the time what was happening, or once again was it just a job that came across you?
You know, I was free at the time. Carmine Infantino, the guy that penciled this stuff, happened to be a very dear friend. Matter of fact, he was one of my ushers at my wedding. So our relationship goes way, way back. But we were both working for Julie Schwartz. And very often a job would come up, and I happened to be there at the time, and I wasn't working, or I had been bringing in a job, or Julie would ask me, have you got time to take this on? And I said, sure. I don't know if Carmine felt there was anything special. He never told me that he did feel that way. I certainly didn't think that it was anything special, but it was a hell of a lot of fun. I loved working on Carmine's stuff. He's a tremendous artist. He's a terrific storyteller. And it was really interesting getting into somebody else's stuff. It was a kind of a learning experience for me as well. So, you know, there was nothing we didn't know that anything particularly special would happen to it or with it. But who the hell knows?
Joe, what was it like working with Julie as your editor?
It was great. Julie was one of the nicest guys, one of the most dependable guys I know, and as most people who worked for Julie will tell you, we always had the check waiting for you when you came up. Now, how could you not like a guy like that?
Exactly.
He was a good guy. He was he put on this air of being hard-nosed, but he wasn't. He was the softest putty. He was an honest guy. He was a straight guy. He was a dependable guy. He was a good guy.
Are you going to be hitting any comic conventions in the near future?
Not that I plan on.
Do you not do many anymore? Or is that a...
No, I don't think I've ever done a hell of a lot, but thank God I'm so busy, and my favorite place still is sitting at this table and drawing.
Do you ever do commission sketches or anything like that?
No.
You're just too busy with all your work and everything?
No, and thank God I don't have to.
Yeah.
That's right.
Joe, I had a quick question, not quick question, because the subject matter, you'll probably want to talk about it. What was the whole, your Facts from Sarajevo, critically acclaimed, book? What was the basis for you wanting to tell that story? Was it just, the news or what?
No, this was a story that involved a very dear friend of mine. I did the book before I even showed it to any kind of a publisher. I had no idea that anybody would even be interested in publishing it. I felt that the story was so incredible receiving those faxes from this guy right in the middle of a war, a guy that I knew who was there with his wife and 2 children, was so incredible to me that eventually when he miraculously got out with he and his family, I thought, God, this is a story that should be told. And I went ahead and I drew it. As a matter of fact, I had got when Irvin Rustamagic, the guy who was involved, got out, we used to sit down and I told him, this is what I'm going to do. And he says, Joe, well, you should do this and you should. I said, Irvin, this happened to you, but this is my story. It's not yours. and I went ahead and I did it. And like I said, I hadn't spoken to any publishers, and I was very pleasantly surprised when 2 or 3 different publishers were interested in doing it. And the reason I did it with Dark Horse was because they were willing to put the book together and put it out exactly as I had imagined it should look. But this was the job was something very personal to me. It was something that I felt was a tremendous story and should be noted down, it should be told, and I put it down in the best way I knew how, and that was in the form of a comic book, or so-called comic book.
Right.
So it must have been really, gratifying to see it as well received as it was.
Yeah. It was very gratifying, and it was kind of a little bit humbling, I must tell you, because I really didn't expect it.
With DC's resurgence of their war comics and their sword and sorcery, they're bringing some of that back, and I think it's a great time for some of the listeners who maybe aren't familiar with some of the stuff that happened before the 80s, and your resume is Hawkman, Sergeant Rock, Viking Prince, Enemy Ace, DC's Tarzan, Ragman, Tor. I mean, there's so much that I think could have relevance again today. I mean, Hawkman has been brought back. Like you said, Sergeant Rock, you're doing the new Sergeant Rock, and I think there's definitely a place for a lot of their lines, a lot of their genres to come back. And
I tell you, that's what happens when you live long enough. All you got to do is live long enough.
That's great, Joe. Well, we thank you so much for joining us here. It's been a wonderful experience for us, and I'm sure our listeners as well. And we wish you all the best of luck with Sergeant Rock and your sons and the school. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the interview. I think it was great. I enjoyed myself as well. Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you, Joe.
Have a good day, Joe.
Thank you. You too.
Bye-bye. Boy, that's...
Wow.
There's a legend.
You bet.
Yep.
That's so personally gratifying to have the opportunity to have a conversation with him and not just hand him a comic at a convention and have him sign it and say thanks and walk away. I mean, that's...
And he was so animated and genuine, so enjoyable.
Yeah, I've seen him down at Philly. He at times he's just like walking around talking to people. I've often wanted to go up and talk to him, but again, it's not one of those times where he's at a table or anything,
right.
And you don't figure he's on his own time, so you don't want to talk to him. And it was so great because there are just so many of them out there I would like to talk to, but unfortunately, time catches up with them and we lose them. So I mean, getting to talk to a legend, it's
Yeah.
I love how his whole conversation about meeting the deadlines and things like that. And then I think back to Maury Hollowell's interview where we asked him why isn't he doing more than what he's doing, and he said, well, most of it's just because I put in as much as I can, and that's really all I can handle. And he said, sure, I could be doing other kind of things and making more money, but
then the quality of his work
but
would
the quality would suffer.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's his own passion that drives him to only want to do one book because he wants to put everything into it. He wants to take pride in what is actually, finalized on paper. And that says a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
One of the things that, when we talk to these pioneers and legends in the industry, that I just wish I could go back in time and, to listen to him as an 11-year-old running into the offices and these guys, like, opening their arms and, like, setting up a table and, come on, try. I was like, Jesus, what a wonderful
to have
gift
that
and an experience.
Hidden camera footage. I mean, man, oh man.
And it's with all of them. I mean, that's all you hear. It's very frequent with all the people that you talk to. It doesn't matter what company they work for, or what they did, but that was the environment. You know?
mean, he worked at Will Eisner's studio when he was 12 years old. I mean, come on, how cool is that?
What a gift! I mean, what a gift, and what a motivation. You know, I mean, what could motivate you more? I mean, how many more people would be in that circumstance and would end up doing this kind of work? You know, because they have that environment, that's that energy, that, you know, having all the creators working together in the same area, and to be part of that must be an amazing feeling. Just must be.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you.
Maybe something that'll happen out of us doing this. Even a casual listener that might eventually become an artist or something. Maybe this will spark them to bring some of that back. You know, see somebody who they think might have a gift to do it, and well, sure, come on in and hang out for the afternoon. You're done school, come on in. I would love to hear a story about that someday, where that comes back in today's world.
Well, I mean, you know, growing up. Treading on you, Jamie. Sorry.
Sorry.
You know, growing up, when I used to read stories and articles about the creators at the time, and even nowadays, is that they were a lot of times understudies of other, you know, legends that that were the generation before them. And you know, growing up in our time, and even now, you don't hear that. You know what I mean? There's none of that brotherhood that I kind of think that has spawned so much great creativity and great talent that you don't have that opportunity at this time, and I think that's a loss.
I just think it was more along the lines of it was just such a fledgling industry back then. I mean, that if they saw, you know, these guys saw this as a way to just keep perpetuating the industry, if they brought this kid in who had a passion for it and trained him the way they had been trained or the way they wanted him to be trained, then eventually he would come and work for them and just keep. They saw it as, and I think because I wasn't there, but I think they would see it, as like a self-perpetuating industry. That if they saw this and they nurtured it and cultivated it, that eventually they would be on, and they would just the art form and everything would just keep going. So I think that's probably one of the things.
And I think you had to throw in a little bit too comics were making so much money that they couldn't make them fast enough. So if there was an 11-year-old kid who had an iota of talent, get him on that table, have him draw him comics, because we're going to put out another issue and we're going to make another $1,000, and then we're going to pay him $10 and he's going to be happy. Mm-hmm. And you know, there was a lot of that going on too, because when you read like the Gerard Jones book and other books on the subject matter, you realize that some of the guys at the top of the chain it was all about the money, you know. So,
and you think about, you know, even though he didn't see much money while he was working, you know, Jack Kirby could punch out numerous pages in a week. So right there, no wonder he's going to be the top, because everybody wants him to do. Absolutely. They know they're going to get the pages. So it's the same thing with anybody that has commitment and passion. If they're going to get it done, I mean, I also think the mentor thing is strong too. You know, for me, like my favorite musical composer is Stephen Sondheim, who grew up right near Oscar Hammerstein. Thank you. I always get their names wrong. And he was in Bucks County. He grew up in his home. I mean, there's a living legend training or being a mentor to another living legend. And same thing with these guys. You know, to hear him say Marv Wolfman was his assistant.
I know.
Like, oh, yeah. You know, I mean, and then his sons, of course.
But you can see how it all
just connects.
Yeah.
And New York at that time.
Oh, well, that's where it was.
Oh, you bet.
Like I mean, whether you love or hate New York, at that time in all the industries, man, that was the place to be.
It was a magic time.
Yeah,
I mean, that was the center of the publishing world for the United States. It wasn't.
I mean, anything was done in Manhattan. I mean, you could find anything, and you still can. It's just that.
Yeah,
it's different.
30s and 40s.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's a little cutthroat.
And that's the thing too with comics. I mean, you have to take that into relativity. Is the fact that, you know, up until 30 years ago, comics was not a collectible industry. It wasn't an investment industry. It wasn't. So when these guys were doing what they were doing, you know, it was a job, but they had the passion for it. But it wasn't widely accepted and widely enamored as an art form or anything like that. To them, it was a job, but it was something they loved doing. But publicly, you know,
it was disposable entertainment.
Exactly. So
you talk about the mentoring thing. I was speaking to Maury Hollowell on the phone just a couple days ago, and he was talking about Joe, and he said, Joe teaches you only when you get to the third year. You have to make it through the first 2 years before Joe steps foot in your classroom. And he said when he got there in its third year, and now Joe's teaching a class, you feel like you don't know anything. You feel like the student now. Not that you necessarily felt like you knew it all before that, but I mean, you get to that point, you go, okay, now the man who knows what he's talking about is teaching me about comics, and it's really, he said he felt that real like awe and that mentor feeling there. That's what it's all about.
I mean, I can get that kind of feeling just with what we were talking. I mean, just listen to him talk.
Sure.
If I was interested, and would want to pursue this, and just talking to him would motivate me more, and
Absolutely.
It gives me that inspiration.
Well, that's why I asked him if he was doing the interviews, and he said he was. So you figure in the 80s, anybody that's reading comics probably knows who Joe Kubert is. Today he's not in the comics world too much anymore, other than the school and some certain things. So imagine going in as a starting artist, and your interview is with Mr. Joe Kubert.
Yeah. Right.
What are you supposed to do? I mean...
Well, when his name's on the building, it's,
Yeah.
Well, and that whole mentoring thing, as much as I love my iPod and our computers and the world of technology today, when you can fax pages and scripts back and forth between people, it really does show from where he's coming from how much it is important to mentor, be right there, be in a bullpen, be together talking and going over ideas.
Right. And collaboration.
Yeah.
I got to tell our audience, I just this Wednesday I did pick up Jew Gangster, and it's a little hardcover, black and white, really, really gorgeous artwork, a great story. I highly recommend it if you're a fan of Joe Kubert's, or if you're not, and you're one of our younger listeners who isn't familiar with his work and never read anything by him or saw any of his artwork. At least go to the comic store and just at least page through it.
What was the price on that?
It was fairly hefty. It's $22.95, I think, because it's a little hardcover, But
I have to agree with you. By looking at it,
it's worth it.
It is, to me, like you said, some of his best work. I mean, to date. I mean, I look at that compared to the stuff that I've seen him do before, and it looks better. I mean, it just keeps.
It's not an exaggeration. And
no.
As I was reading it, I found myself forgetting that I was reading a comic, and it almost seemed real to me because the artwork is very realistic. It sets the tone perfectly, and it was really good. I can't emphasize that enough.
I think that goes with anything, any good graphic storytelling. I mean, that reminds me of like the stuff that Eisner was doing right before he passed.
Yeah.
Some of the true life stories, telling the old stories of the old neighborhood and
right.
and things like that. So I'm very interested in reading that.
When I was flipping through the Jew Gangster, it's going to come out sounding really sexist, but some of the women in there are really drawn gorgeously. It is just spectacular. I was amazed.
Yeah. I experienced the same thing as I read it. This one character in particular is,
and they're drawn realistically.
Well, yeah,
right?
It's not. It's
right.
It's not cheesecake. It's not
No.
fluff. It's not something to be intentionally sexy or anything like that. Everything in what is in that story is drawn realistically.
Yes.
Just as well as the story is being told realistically.
Yeah, and at that time, men were men and gangsters were gangsters and women were women. I mean, that's the
Right.
that picture of Molly, that character of Molly is just incredible. Yeah, look at that.
I mean,
It almost looks like an old-time sketch before they had photographs.
Mhm.
I mean, it really looks almost like a little portrait.
the stuff is kind of like timeless when you really look at it.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's. I noticed looking at Jew Gangster, excuse me, that that's one of the first works where I look and I can see some similarities in his son's works. Especially, I can't keep track of them, Andy and Adam. I think it's Andy who might have more, maybe a closer similarity to this Jew Gangster. But it's one of the first things that I can really kind of look at Joe's work and say, you know what, I can kind of see a little bit of his son's in there as well. That that their work and their style is kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say that Andy or Adam are copycats or anything like that. They both have their individual styles and are recognizably different. So I'm not making the implication that they are copycats of their father.
No, the problem is I can't ever tell the two apart because Adam and Andy the names are so similar. They're both 4 letters. They both start with A. If the one of them's name was Zeke, and the other one was Andy, well then I would start to recognize whose style belonged to which name. Yeah. I recognize that there are 2 different styles. I just can never remember whose name belongs to. It probably pisses them off and probably pisses Joe off, and but. I just can't. I'd have to sit down in a room and study their pages for hours and memorize it and say, okay, now this is Andy and this is Adam.
But that does say something to see that both of his sons are very successful, very professional, and very good, just as his father. I mean, that is not something that occurs very frequently. I mean, you have John Romita Jr., but not. How many children did John Romita Sr. have? And there's one that follows in his footsteps and has that passion and drive and is still doing it to this day. So it's not something that's very frequent. It's to have 2 children and still have them successful and be very good at what they're doing. And I think that's a reflection on the parent. Not that they push him into it, because he definitely doesn't. Any good parent would not. But supports it if it's there. And again, I think it's just like being in that environment. There's the mentor. It's not only their father; it's the mentor.
Yeah. So you screw around, you're out. That's
Well, I'm sure they did work harder than anybody else at that school.
That happens anytime. You know.
If you want to get more of a taste of Kubert, DC has the Enemy Ace archives, Sergeant Rock archives. There's some Hawkman 1 or 2 archives. We talked about Sergeant Rock Prophecy coming out. There's Sergeant Rock Between Hell and a Hard Place by Kubert and Azzarello. He did. There's also the Sergeant Rock's Combat Tales Digest, which just came out a few weeks or a couple months ago.
About a month and a half ago or so. Or 2 months ago.
You can, I'm sure in back issue bins you can find some 70s Ragman stuff. I think it's 70s.
Tor.
He's
working on Tarzan. I think those are coming out from Dark Horse, I think.
Jamie mentioned Facts from Sarajevo, original graphic novel. There's the old comic book artist when it was under Tomorrow's Publishing, issue 20 from cover date July 2002, is a great flip book. It talks about the Kuberts on one side, and then you flip it and it talks about the Romitas. And of course, check out Joe Kubert's School of Cartooning, which I'll put a link up when we do the show notes.
Peter. We have to do this is going to be our first attempt here for the Smallville Prize. And the good people at Titan Publishing have decided that giving away only Smallville Companion Volume Season 3 is not enough, so they threw in Seasons 1 and 2 as well. So now you're going to get all 3 books if you can stump the Rios.
Oh boy.
What a prize. Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
That's the best Stump the Rio prize ever,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm sending some in. Mortimer Snurd, if you get an email from
Jacob Farquhar. Oh, who's that? I don't know.
Jacob Farquhar? What the?
Mike Hunt.
Oh, okay. All right. Question 1. This is from Glenn Jacobs. Question 1. What was the name and secret identity of the Sentry's sidekick in Paul Jenkins' original Sentry miniseries?
Is there a Marvel, DC, and Independent question on these 3? Because I did ask for a Marvel, DC, Independent.
Yes.
Okay. Good, because I have no idea. Kevin?
Isn't it... I'm trying to think of his name. It's Billy, right? I think the identity is Billy. I can't remember the last name.
I can't.
And I think it's the character is the Scout.
Yeah, the Scout. It's Billy Turner.
Yeah, Turner. That's it.
Okay. Question 2. Name 5 DCU superheroes that guest starred in Grant Morrison's Animal Man run.
Okay, Vixen, Martian Manhunter, Superman, Dolphin.
You know he's not going to stop at 5.
And
First he's got to get
Bawana Beast.
You know what's funny is those are the first 5 he has on the list.
Woohoo! Wait, let me.
Do you want to go for more?
First, did he say DC heroes or DC characters?
DC superheroes.
Superheroes. So you specifically went superheroes. Hawkman.
No, he doesn't have that one on his list.
Oh.
Of course, you could just be
You stumped the
BSing. So,
Jacobs.
What's that?
You stumped the Jacobs.
or you could just be BSing.
No,
and
there
not
was
remember.
there was that Invasion crossover where he couldn't turn off the one thing.
How many does he have listed, Brian?
That's 6.
Quite a few. It's about 15 or so.
Well, I mean, there was that one issue where they did a whole bunch of Limbo things, like in Limbo character Inferior 5 was in there, and
Yeah, that's on the list.
oh, okay. The gay ghost was in
That's
there.
on the list.
So okay, I see where he's. I think even Captain Carrot made an appearance briefly, way in the background of one of them. It's got to be some other Justice League Europe ones, which like Flash or no, not Flash. That's all.
All right, he's got Elongated Man,
Oh.
Metamorpho, Rocket Red, Booster Gold, Phantom Stranger, Jason Blood,
Oh, that's right.
Red Bee, and Nightmaster.
There was a lot of Justice
Red
League
Bee.
Europe
Yeah.
there. Yeah.
Because he was in that for
Yeah.
a while. Yeah.
Okay, question 3. What was the name of the scientist who created Madman by reanimating his corpse in Mike Allred's Madman series?
I should know this.
So should I, and this pissing me off.
No idea.
I know because I read these. I can't think.
I can see him with like the big
Oh
high
yeah,
collar,
absolutely.
and
I can
the
picture.
red goatee, and the
As soon as he said the name and stuff, I'm like, bing! It pops right in my head. But to think of the name, wow.
Madman's
Professor Periwinkle.
Madman was Frank.
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as I hear him, I'm going to kick myself. But
Would
no,
you
I
have a
can't.
first letter for him?
Doctor.
Yeah, Doctor. It starts with a B.
Nope.
No
Still
help.
nothing. Still nothing.
Dr. Bouffard.
Okay.
To ring a bell?
Yep.
No.
To be honest with you, no, it doesn't ring a bell.
I guess
for
I got to
me.
go back and reread.
So
It's
great
been so long
attempt.
since I read it.
That was
man.
that was
Yeah,
a
I was
good
going
one.
to say that's.
I mean,
So-
when those were coming out, I was reading them. I was picking them up as they were coming out when they were coming out pretty regular, and then it
those
just
were-
like fell off. And I was
Those were
like,
ginchy fun.
So a reminder to, if you submit a Stump the Rios, in the subject line put Stump the Rios and Smallville prize, and you have to have, it's 3 questions, 1 Marvel, 1 DC, 1 independent, and you must supply the answers, because we do occasionally get Stump the Rios questions with no answers, which makes it kind of hard for us to know what you're looking for. And ultimately, the rest of us in the room are the judges. If we feel that a question is unfair, then it gets thrown out. So
And you'll win Smallville Season 1, 2, and 3 companions from Titan Books.
that's correct. So next episode, another person takes a shot.
I got I'm like nervous because we're giving such big
you have
thing
so much
away.
pressure now.
Yeah.
All 3 companions on your back.
And if you don't win them, Jamie's going to take them. So make sure you.
I'll take 3. I need 3. I already bought one.
All right, well, that's cool. I'll take 1 and 2 then. Because I bought the yearbooks, but I didn't buy the companions.
Yeah, the companions are really nice. I will say, and I didn't realize 3 was out there, so I'm gonna have to go look for that.
Well, that's good. I thought I was going to have to wrestle you for it.
Should we do a call?
Yeah.
Should we call somebody?
Just anybody?
All right, we're gonna
Call
do.
somebody out in California. It's 9 o'clock.
Yeah. You know what? That's true. I just look at it. I don't know where these zip codes are.
It doesn't matter.
Anybody know where 586
The
is?
area code.
Area codes.
Yeah, area code. That's what I mean.
586.
Call us here. It's the middle of the night.
That sounds
Yeah.
like New Yorkish. 586.
586. No, 586 is not.
Well, let's do it.
Because New York,
Let's do
you
it.
got 212 and
Well, I was thinking that old. Forget it.
like Jersey. Isn't Jersey like 917 or something like that? Or
Forget.
stuff like that. But that doesn't. 586 does not ring.
This is Michael Schwartz, by the way.
Schwartz.
Did we call a Schwartz before? No. I thought we did. Remember that? Because you made
Don't
the
get
joke
started.
about.
He did.
Huh?
It was on the last episode. You were talking something
Oh,
about.
was that
Schwartz.
Bradley Schwartz? That might.
I don't know, but there was a
forget.
Schwartz before
Yeah, we
because
called
we made
before.
the joke about.
Yeah. Made a Schwartz.
Oh, we're looking for Michael.
Yes, I'm sure he enjoys that joke.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure.
This works.
Should call him up and say, "How's your?" Forget.
Never mind. Yeah. 3 ringy dingy.
He's sleeping.
It would be great. Oh,
Hey.
I'm in Hawaii, you prick.
You have reached the Sprint voice mailbox of
Mike.
To leave a voice message, press 1 or just wait for the tone. To send a numeric page, press 2 now. At the tone, please record your voice message. When you are finished recording, you may hang up or press pound for more options.
Thank you.
Mike.
You blew it!
Wake up,
You've
man.
been called by CGS.
This is what you get for screening your calls.
That's right, we're all here too, all 5 of us.
Hello.
And you missed your chance. So we hope you enjoy your Saturday.
Better luck next time.
That's right. Your name goes back in the bottom of the list.
Back in the list. No soup for you.
See you later. That's funny. It is a better bit, though, when they actually answer the phone.
Yes.
It usually does work.
You
Yeah.
gonna try another one?
Let's try another one.
It's pretty funny when they don't, though.
I know. That's kind of cool to mess around with it.
Yeah, that's what we got to
It
do.
works either way. Yeah.
303 area code?
No ring for me.
Who cares?
I'm gonna get an area code list so we can check off where we're doing.
All you gotta do is get the phone book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't matter. They put it up there. They put it out there, so it's.
Oh yeah.
They're
Fair game.
Fair game is right. 303 though. Wasn't 302 like Delaware or something like that?
That actually could be. That could be Delaware.
I don't remember what I dialed now.
Stover.
Colorado.
Colorado. Cool.
Looks like we're looking for John.
That's about a 2-hour time difference, so it's 10 o'clock there. So. What 586? What was that one? Where was that at?
Hello?
Hello, John?
Yeah.
John, this is Brian Deemer from Comic Geek Speak. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great.
What's going on, John?
Hey, John.
Hello.
Hey,
How's it going, guys?
You're being recorded right now.
Awesome.
So, what do you just waking up out there?
Yeah, I'm actually just heading off to work here.
Is it freezing out there?
No, it was chilly, but not too bad. It was like 30 degrees this morning.
Yeah, that's about the same here. Actually, it's pretty cold here.
What do you do?
I'm a tattoo artist, actually.
Oh, very cool.
And I know who to come get my Batman tattoo from.
Totally, for sure.
An inker.
Do you do a lot of superhero tattoos?
I've done some. I've done a couple. Did a Spawn one and a Hulk, and I've actually tattooed Julie from the Max on myself.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, absolutely.
So what'd you pick up this Wednesday? Did you pick anything up?
I actually picked up a lot of stuff. I was super far behind in my reading, but I got like the All-Star Superman, and like the last 2 issues of JLA, and I don't have my stack in front of me right now, but I got a pretty hefty stack because I've been like 3 weeks behind.
Have you been? Are you reading Identity Crisis?
Absolutely.
Cool.
So
Infinite Crisis. Jeez, I'm sorry. It's so many crises I can't even remember them.
totally.
You're having a crisis about crisis.
That's right.
Totally. Yeah, that's pretty much like all me and my buddies are having our own theories on what's going on and who's going to be villains and whatnot. So
Cool.
I read that All-Star Superman. I really enjoyed that.
yeah, I've heard good things. I haven't gotten to it yet.
So what's your theory on Infinite Crisis? What's something you feel is that you got a handle on?
Well, I think the new Supergirl Cora is actually going to be a villain in it.
Yeah, we've heard some similar theories. That's
interesting.
And that'll be.
And I think, I don't know if Wally's going to make it through it. I think him and Barry are actually going to switch. So.
Cool.
Well, we'll have to see if that comes to light.
That's right. You win a Dewey button.
See,
if
and
you're
you
right.
recorded, so if it happens, you got the jump. You know?
You'll get a maybe prize. Yeah. We can't give no prize. I mean,
That's right.
Give a maybe prize.
I will say that in the 2 issues of JLA that you're picking up, they do kind of address what you said, so you may be on the right track.
Yeah, totally. That's, like I said, I just read those, so
Okay.
that's why I'm like, it's fresh in my mind.
Yeah, I kind of got that too from what they were saying.
Are you on the forum?
I am actually. I am RL Train.
Oh, hey,
okay, cool.
Do you want me to fix that back to L Train?
Yeah, if you would.
Yeah, okay, so then I'll do that, and then the next time you log in, you'll have to type in L Train instead of RL Train, so.
All right, that's cool. Yeah, I was doing it one morning, and it was totally a typo. I'm like, blast!
What do you
I
think?
saw you posted that, and I was going to private message you to see if we could change that. You don't have to keep it that way.
Cool, thanks, guys.
What do you think of the new forum?
I like it. Like, I was kind of weird at first. I'm getting some used to, but I like how you don't have to log in every time, unless, like, I don't anyway, unless I'm switching computers.
Right.
Right, yeah.
And then, like, so that's a nice feature, and, like, just, it seems like it's a little bit easier to get around, a little cleaner.
I agree.
Good.
I feel the same way.
And, but I do miss the rotating covers, so.
Yeah, that seems to be
Well,
ongoing.
we're trying to find a way to bring them back.
Cool.
We
Right
just
on.
have to find a place to put them, because there's not really any room right now, so. Okay, you are officially changed now. You are back to L Train.
Awesome.
Cool.
It's as simple as that.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
That's what you get for being home to answer the phone.
That's right.
Totally.
All right, man. Well, we'll let you get to work, and
Cool.
Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, have a great one. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Yeah, it is better when they're home. The first couple times we got no answers, it was funny, and now it's not so funny anymore.
If we actually had a support staff, we could call them and make sure they were home.
That's
before
right. We could get them on hold for a while.
Yeah,
That's not the same.
Well, let's do that. That can be Stuttering Matt's job.
Yeah.
high-pitched Matt.
I guess the one thing we want to do is just remind everybody that this episode was sponsored by the New York Comic Con, February 24th, 25th, 26th, Jacob Javits Center. We're going to be there, and it looks like it's shaping up to be a really cool event, multimedia event. All the different sponsors, you can go to their webpage, www.newyorkcomiccon.com. You can go to their webpage through our homepage on our website. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And it's just going to be cool. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're excited. It's the dead of February, and it'll probably be the worst winter, maybe. Who knows? But we'll be sloshing around in our booties. But
I'm gonna walk up there if I have to.
I have to admit, like one of the times Neil and I went up to New York at that time for a show. Is when New York got hit with 24 inches of snow.
Oh, boy.
And we didn't think we were going to go. And then we found out that the buses, that they overnight, they were plowing everything out and stuff. And I have pictures. I took pictures all over the place because as many times as I've been in New York, I can't say I've been there with 2 feet of snow.
And the Jacob Javits Center is over on the east side, right?
It's on the
it's
west
on
side.
the west side.
West side? Oh,
Yeah.
so we're going to get all that wind off the river
Yeah.
probably?
Yeah, because it's right
Sure.
there.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
right on the river.
It's right on the river,
It's going
yeah.
to be great. It's going to be nice and cold.
But you'll be nice inside.
But it
warm
makes
with
it
all the fun
convenient. It's
things
not
to do.
too far from like Port Authority and
No,
stuff.
it's
So
not
if
at
you
all.
come in on a bus or something, you're going
Yeah.
to be very close.
Cool.
Literally.
We have a voicemail here. I have not listened to it yet, so let's see what they have to say.
Hey, CGS guys. Hey, Peter. Hey, Matt. Hey, Shane. Hey, Brian. And hey, John Boy. And hey, Tiny Keop and whoever else. This is Jackson Murdoch. I kind of wanted to drop you a real quick note. I just got done listening. By the way, real quick, in case this comes out kind of fuzzy, I do apologize for that, and because the only way I get free long distance is on this cell phone, and the only opportunity is during my lunch. So I'll try to make this very brief. I don't want to eat up too much time. But I just got done listening to your Star Wars episode and your Book of the Month Club, and I was pretty thrilled. I really liked it. I sat back. Tomb of Dracula wasn't exactly my bag originally. I do have some of the original issues, and I have a friend who has the essentials, and so I had something to compare to. I went back and I pulled out some of those old issues, and it was really odd, to look at the differential between the color and the black and white. I kind of prefer the black and white. I don't know. I think it's more dramatic. But anyway, your Star Wars episode, that was that was something to me that I had a whole lot more hopes going into it. Had a whole lot more. I think that's the problem. I hope too much, way too much, and because I hope too much, I guess I was setting myself up for a huge letdown. But there were some things I was very nostalgic. I remember standing in a long line at the Plaza Theater, waiting to go see Return of the Jedi as a kid, and I remember just the scenes, and when some of those scenes were reminiscent in this third prequel, and I don't know, I enjoyed it overall, but still there was that sense of it being a kind of a letdown. But that was just, I guess, because I just had too many high expectations of it. I'm really hoping that the forthcoming TV series is going to have the same flavor. I'm hoping that it's not just going to be like some of these other TV series that we've seen that play off of some of the movies that have been out there and they end up getting canceled after the first season, or maybe even get canceled mid-run. But anyway, I just kind of wanted to drop something off at you. I've been listening ever since your first episode, and even though 1 and 2 were very difficult, but I'm really enjoying it, guys. You guys are doing a wonderful job. But I'm telling you, you guys are making me real homesick for the past. You're making me real homesick for those times where I used to hang out. Just like, I'm not the only one, but just like all the other people that have called in or, sent you emails and told you that, man, you hung out at the comic shops, and you're talking with all your friends, and heck, even people that just walk up out of the clear blue, and you carry on these long, drawn-out conversations. You walk away, and you are just exhausted from all of the talking. Sometimes I'd hang out all afternoon, all evening. This before, of course, I had a wife and had any real life. But then again, I'd walk away from that shop, and I'd have so many friends. People I'd come in, I'd see every part of the time, every week. But anyhow, I'm just starting to ramble, but I've been wanting so much to take the time and take the opportunity to call in or email in, but work, the way my work is right now, it's just been too hectic, and some other things have been going on, been keeping me away from it. But I just wanted to drop you a real quick one, even though you're probably laughing right now and thinking, this is quick. But anyhow, guys, I do appreciate everything you guys have done, and keep up the great work. I'm going to keep listening, and hopefully pretty soon I'll be joining in with y'all. I'll be joining in on the podcast scene, and who knows, maybe we can hook up somehow. Anyhow, you guys keep doing what you're doing, and I'll keep doing what I'm doing, which is sitting 8 hours a day in front of a computer and doing Photoshop and listening to a lot of CGS. So y'all take care. Adios.
Well, that was just really just a great. I really just. That's really cool. So thanks for calling. It's so great to hear from people.
Peter, that's mean.
That was very mean.
I'm sorry, I'm kidding.
It's half of it is the voicemail quality is
and
less
then you
than
call
stellar.
on a cell phone and forget about it. But that was really cool.
That was funny. You guys are all laughing.
Yeah, we were.
And if you want to leave us a voicemail, you can call 206-888-4805.
So there's 4 8s and 4.
We have to check those numbers and see what letters they match up with.
What can we spell?
Oh, yeah. That might be cool, yeah.
You never
Go
know.
to it. Good.
Hamanama.
You never know.
Numa.
I shouldn't have even done it. He mentioned me, out of all of he mentioned a bunch of us, but so I apologize. But he's right, man. It's we get those emails all the time. People are like homesick, you don't want to hang out.
We
at the
can't
stores
spell
anymore.
anything because 0 has no letters.
Well, make it a no.
Well, you work with it,
Be our next contest. Come up with a
Yeah, acronym.
All right. Well,
We can do a wrap up.
yeah, that's a good enough episode, I think. Yeah, it doesn't get much better than talking to Joe Kubert.
Nope.
So it's hard to trump that.
hard to top, but we'll try.
All right, I was so tempted to play the new Manuma dish. I almost did it.
I have to hear that yet.
I have to see it yet.
If you want to send us an email, it's comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Check out our website, www.comicgeekspeak.com, and be sure to join our tremendous new forum where it's just extremely lively. And thanks to Bob at GameCircuit.net for hosting the files, and thanks to UpAllNightGaming.com for hosting the website. Please vote for us at Podcast Alley. The more votes we get, the more exposure we get. And the more exposure we get, the better we have a chance of keeping this show going. And yeah, I guess that's it. Once again, we're sponsored by New York Comic Con. Thanks to Joe Kubert. And we're brought to you in conjunction with WorldFamousComics.com. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, one listener at a time. See you next time.